Picture this. You're madly in love. You just got engaged. You're picking out flowers, arguing about the guest list, and stress-eating cake samples. Life is beautiful. You know what you're not doing? Reading the fine print on the biggest legal contract you'll ever sign in your entire life. Because here's what nobody tells you when you're shopping for wedding venues. Marriage isn't just a romantic commitment. It's a binding legal partnership that instantly merges your financial lives, creates automatic inheritance rights, and makes you legally responsible for each other's decisions in ways that would make a business lawyer nervous. Oh, and if it ends badly? The average divorce in America costs between $30,000 and $50,000 per person. That's a house down payment. That's a year of college tuition. That's a really, really expensive mistake. Here's the truly wild part. Americans spend an average of $33,000 on weddings, but exactly $0 on understanding the legal implications of what they're actually doing that day. We'll hire a photographer for 8 hours, but won't spend 1 hour with a lawyer discussing what happens to the house if things go south. It's like buying a car without checking if it has an engine, because you really like the paint color. Every single day in the United States, about 6,000 couples get married, and roughly 90% of them have no idea they just opted into their state's default marital property system without reading the terms and conditions. It's the only contract in America where people routinely sign without knowing what they're agreeing to, and then act shocked when they discover what they actually signed up for. But here's the good news. You don't have to be one of those people. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what legal moves to make before you say I do. Not because you're planning for divorce, but because you're planning for a partnership. The smart kind. The kind that doesn't end with someone sleeping in their car because they didn't realize their spouse's student loans became their problem. Let me explain how marriage became the ultimate legal trap that everyone walks into with their eyes closed. So let's talk about how we got here. Back in the thrilling times of medieval England, marriage was literally a property transaction. The father transferred ownership of his daughter to her husband, complete with a dowry as a signing bonus. Romance, am I right? But here's the thing. Everyone knew it was a legal transaction. Nobody was confused about what was happening. It was business. Fast forward to modern America, and we've done this weird cultural thing where we've kept all the legal complexity of marriage, but wrapped it in so much romantic mythology that discussing the practical realities makes you sound like a monster. Mention a prenup at a dinner party, and people look at you like you just said you're planning the divorce before the wedding. But here's what's actually insane. The law treats marriage as a contract whether you acknowledge it or not. You're just choosing to sign that contract without reading it. Currently, about 2.3 million couples get married in the United States every year, and according to the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, only about 5% of couples sign prenuptial agreements. That means 95% of couples are defaulting to whatever their state legislature decided their marriage should look like. And trust me, your state legislature was not thinking about your specific situation when they wrote these laws. They were thinking about what would work for the average hypothetical couple, which is like designing a shoe that fits everyone. It's going to pinch in weird places. Here's the current reality you're walking into. The moment you get married, your state's laws automatically determine how your property gets divided, whether your spouse inherits your stuff if you die, whether you're responsible for their debts, how your taxes work, and what happens if you split up. You don't get a vote. You don't get input. You just inherit whatever legal framework your state uses. It's like moving into an apartment and discovering the previous tenant's furniture comes with it, and also, you're legally required to keep it exactly how they arranged it. And here's where it gets really fun. Every state is different. If you live in California, Texas, or one of the 9 community property states, Everything you earn during marriage belongs 50-50 to both of you, automatically. Every paycheck, every bonus, every random stock option. Meanwhile, if you live in literally any of the other 41 states, they use equitable distribution, which sounds fair, but actually just means whatever a judge thinks is fair, which could be 50-50, or could be 70-30, or could be whoever the judge likes better that day. It's a legal Mad Lib, and you're living inside it. But wait, there's more. Because marriage also instantly makes you your spouse's legal next of kin, which means they automatically make your medical decisions if you can't. They inherit your retirement accounts, unless you specifically say otherwise, and they might become legally responsible for your medical debt depending on what state you're in. Oh, and if your spouse runs up credit card debt during the marriage in a community property state, congratulations, that's your debt now too, even if you never touched the card. Even if you didn't know the card existed. Romantic, right? The system is basically designed on the assumption that all marriages are perfect partnerships where both people contribute equally, make decisions together, and would obviously want to share everything. Which is adorable. It's also completely divorced from reality. Pun intended. Some couples have massive income disparities. Some have family wealth from before marriage. Some have small businesses. Some have crushing student loan debt. Some have kids from previous relationships. Some have elderly parents they're supporting. The law treats all of these situations exactly the same. Here's your default marriage contract, good luck. And here's the absolute kicker. Fixing this later is way harder than getting it right now. You can't just change your mind about marital property division mid-marriage without going through a whole legal process called a postnuptial agreement, which is expensive and complicated. It's like trying to rewrite the rules of Monopoly after someone already owns Boardwalk. Technically possible, legally messy. But here's what the wedding industry, the romance narrative, and your well-meaning but legally ignorant relatives don't want you to focus on. You can actually opt out of most of this default system. You can customize your marriage contract. You just have to do it before you walk down the aisle. Then there's the beneficiary designation trap that catches thousands of people every year. The moment you get married, you need to update the beneficiaries on your life insurance, retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs, and any payable on death bank accounts. Federal law actually requires you to name your spouse as the primary beneficiary on retirement accounts unless they sign a waiver. You can't just leave your 401k to your sister anymore without your spouse's written permission. And here's the kicker. Beneficiary designations override your will. You could write the most detailed will in history, saying your brother gets everything. But if your ex-spouse is still listed on your life insurance from 15 years ago, guess who's getting that $500,000 payout? Not your brother. This is also where estate planning comes in, because marriage changes everything about who inherits your stuff. Without a will, your state's intestacy laws determine who gets what, and while spouses usually get priority, the exact percentages vary by state and get complicated if you have kids. So what do you actually do with all this information? Let's start with the timeline, because timing matters here. Ideally, you want to handle this stuff 6 months before the wedding, minimum 3 months before if you're running late. Why so early? Because springing legal documents on your partner 2 weeks before the wedding makes you look like a suspicious jerk, and gives courts an excuse to throw out your prenup for being coercive. This needs to be a calm conversation, not a last-minute ambush. First major move, have the money talk, and I mean the real money talk. Sit down with your partner and exchange full financial disclosure. That means showing each other your credit reports from all 3 bureaus, your current bank account balances, your retirement account statements, all outstanding debts, including student loans and credit cards, and any assets you own, like property or investments. You can pull your credit reports free at annualcreditreport.com, And this needs to happen before you talk to any lawyers. Why? Because discovering your partner has $60,000 in secret credit card debt after you're married is a way worse surprise than discovering it before. Plus, full financial disclosure is legally required for valid prenups anyway, so you might as well get it over with. Second, decide if you need a prenup. And here's when you definitely do. If either of you owns property or has significant assets before marriage, if either of you owns a business or part of one, if either of you has substantial debt, if either of you has kids from a previous relationship, if either of you expects a large inheritance, or if there's a significant income disparity between you. Notice I said or, not and. You only need one of these factors to make a prenup worth considering. If you decide to get one, each person needs their own lawyer, not the same lawyer. That invalidates the whole thing. Expect to pay between $1,500 and $5,000 total for both lawyers if your situation is straightforward. Third, even if you skip the prenup, you absolutely need to update or create certain documents. You need a will that reflects your marriage, because dying without one means state intestacy laws control everything, and those laws might not match what you actually want. You need to designate healthcare proxies and powers of attorney so your spouse can make medical decisions for you if you're incapacitated, which happens way more often than people think. You need to update all your beneficiary designations on life insurance, retirement accounts, and bank accounts. All of this should happen within the first 3 months after marriage if you didn't do it before. Fourth, have a conversation about how you'll handle finances during marriage. Will you have joint accounts, separate accounts, or both? Who pays which bills? How do you make decisions about large purchases? What's the threshold for "I'm buying this" versus "we need to discuss this"? This isn't romantic, but it prevents 90% of money fights, which are the leading cause of divorce. Set up whatever system you agree on within the first month of marriage. Fifth, and this is important, review and update all these documents every 3 to 5 years, or whenever something major changes, like buying a house, having kids, starting a business, or getting a windfall. Laws change, circumstances change. Your legal documents need to keep up, or they become expensive liabilities instead of protection. Here's the bigger picture that everyone misses when they're busy arguing about whether prenups are unromantic. Marriage is already a legal contract. That's not cynical. That's not pessimistic. That's literally what it is. The state issues you a marriage license, which is a legal document that binds you into a contractual relationship with specific rights and obligations. You're signing a contract whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is whether you sign the default version your state wrote, or whether you take 30 seconds to customize it to fit your actual life. And here's the thing about love that the romance industry doesn't want to admit. Real love isn't about ignoring practical realities. Real love is about handling practical realities so well that you can focus on the good stuff. You don't avoid conversations about money and property because you trust each other. You have conversations about money and property because you trust each other. The couples who end up in bitter divorce court aren't the ones who discussed prenups and financial planning. They're the ones who thought love alone would magically solve everything, and then discovered that love doesn't pay for lawyers or divide retirement accounts. Look, I get it. Talking about this stuff feels like planning for failure. It feels like you're being pessimistic about your relationship before it even starts. But you know what's actually pessimistic? Thinking that discussing practical realities will doom your relationship. That's saying your love is so fragile it can't survive a conversation about money. That's the truly cynical view. The optimistic view is that your relationship is strong enough to handle adult conversations about adult realities, and that protecting each other legally is just another way of showing you care. So here's your memorable takeaway. Marrying someone without understanding the legal implications is like signing a business partnership agreement written in invisible ink. You're bound by it whether you read it or not. Might as well turn on the lights first. If you think marriage law is complicated, wait until you hear about what happens when you have kids and don't update your legal documents. That's next video. Until then, go have that uncomfortable money conversation with your partner. Yes, right now. Yes, even if you're not engaged yet. Your future self, the one who isn't hiring divorce lawyers, will thank you. And remember, this is education, not legal advice. I explained the law. I didn't lawyer at you. When in doubt, get a real lawyer. Seriously. Like, subscribe if contract law disguised as romance made you uncomfortable, and drop a comment telling me what legal nightmare you want explained next. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not legal advice, and I'm not your lawyer. Every situation is different. Every state has different laws, and when in doubt, consult with a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. Seriously, don't tweet me when you ignored this advice and now you're getting sued. Get a lawyer.